This stuff is thick. This is the field that we had the highest yield ever on the whole farm a couple years ago. Looks of it, we're hitting those high yields again. I don't know how well you can read that, but we're showing 200 bushels, 190, 214, 211, 203, 215. Wow. Wow. Oh man, this is gonna be another, man, I wish we were going across the scale so I knew exactly where we were, but this is gonna be another record-breaking field for the year. All right, today is hopefully the second to last day of harvesting wheat. If everything goes well, we've got to start just a little bit later because there's a lot of dew. We haven't had any wind, and so the dew comes in and it gets to where it makes threshing a little bit harder, just because that moisture makes everything a little bit tough and sticky. Hold on, let me go through my GPS here and just tell it that I'm here and awake and I am legally allowed to operate the machine. So real quick, let's go do a walk around the combine, kind of show you the outside of it and what's going on. So right off the get-go, we got to start off with the header. This is the header. The header is what cuts the crop. We've got knives here that are sliding back and forth in between these guards. These guards are adding back pressure to the knife. And then we have the auger here that's 35 feet wide. That auger takes the crop and feeds it in with those fingers, feeds it into a chain, metal chain. Right here we have the reel. This is the reel. This reel adds back pressure as it's coming around and spinning, as you see in other videos. And as you'll see later today, it's putting back pressure on the crop so that the knives don't just push the crop over, but that puts back pressure on it to push the crop into the header. So this header is kind of cool as it's got sensors down here. That's what that little bar there is, that bar, and it's got two on the other side. It's got sensors for auto height. And then that's pretty much the header. All the drive and everything comes off the combine right here. There's a PTO, there's hydraulics, and all that. So right here we have the feeder house. This is where the chain is. That chain goes up into the combine and feeds the threshing drum. This combine has an APS hybrid, which means it has a threshing drum, which is like right in between the tires there. It's a drum that is spinning and basically beating the wheat seed out of the wheat straw and the heads. And then underneath is a fan that blows all the light stuff. So like this straw is pretty light and the fan will just blow it away. And the kernels are a lot heavier. And as they come through, they fall onto what's called the sieve. Now the sieve's like an angled grate, and I can adjust those angles for how aggressive we want them to be. But the grain will fall through that while the fan is blowing chaff and straw here. So the chaff, the real light stuff is here, small stuff. That will blow onto these turntables and then spread out evenly in the back, so that if we have any kernels that come up and over, it'll spread them out instead of having them in a straight row, which just makes it a lot nicer to work and clean up when we're done. And then right here, after it goes through that threshing drum, it goes through these twin rotors, and so most of the straw is actually coming through here, the heavy straw. Those rotors are spinning and they're pushing straw through. They also have grates underneath them and letting the wheat come onto the sieves. From that, those sieves, they have an auger in the very bottom of the combine, and that auger feeds a flap elevator. So it's like a chain with flaps on it or scoops, and it scoops it up to the grain tank through here. And if there's anything that is questionable and a little bit more dirty, they'll go through the tailings auger and up the tailings elevator, which is right there. And that's the elevator and auger that you can see from inside the cab that I showed you on my last video. Okay, there's a brief rundown of how this combine works. It's getting dry enough. Let's get going. Turn on the rotors, all the threshing mechanism. We should have a pretty good day. The way the weather's looking, it's gonna be hot though. Hopefully the AC keeps up. It was not keeping up real great yesterday. Make sure all my settings are correct. So we are on a little 36-acre field that borders the Snake River. As we get further back, I'll show you how close the river is. This is kind of a neat field. It's kind of tucked in off of a bench. There's a bench here in Declo, and then quite a ways above the river. And then you drop down off the bench into this little section. This is a field that we rent. And it's right on the river. So it's kind of a neat little field down in a hole. And it has strange dirt, as every field does, but this one's extra strange because you would think right next to the river that dirt would be dark and heavy and always wet. It is not. It is sandy and usually dry. But there's a little hillside over here. Let's see if we can fix your view. So there's a hillside over here, and that hillside over there is actually more wet and soggy than the side next to the river. It's an interesting situation there. We are cutting low because some of it's laying down. Again, it's not that bad. Not like that last field I was on that you guys saw, but some of it's laying down, and also the wheat is actually not that tall. So we opted to just windrow this field because the wheat's not very tall to begin with, and that way we don't have to come back through and do another pass with the windrower or straw beater. Do a little check in the grain tank, kind of see what kind of product we're pulling through. We want to make sure that it's clean and we don't have much chaff in there, and also that we're not cracking any kernels. That would mean that our concaves are too tight. That is the graded metal around the threshing drum. Those are the concaves. Those are adjustable on how tight we can make that drum. And I think so far, I mean, things look pretty good. When it gets a little bit more moisture, like the dew is on heavier, the shells, the hole around the wheat will stick a little more, and it's a little harder to thresh out of there. I don't know what it is about this field, but it is way more dusty than all the other fields. Also, in the windrow over there, the straw is shattering more than the previous field that we windrowed. I don't know how the best way to explain it is, but like the straw or the stalk of the crop is like exploding inside the combine, whereas that one field that you saw last time with all the wheat laying down, that straw was a little more green, and so it was leaving a lot longer pieces that were not like shattered and exploded. They were long and intact. I don't know a better way to explain that, but yeah, this feels just odd, because the odd thing, I guess I should say, is that all of these fields that we've planted this year are all the same variety. We didn't change any varieties. This is all soft white winter wheat, the ovation variety. So it's really interesting this year where there was no other varieties to see the differences between fields, and a lot of them kind of like no rhyme or reason. Anyway. So this field's only 36 acres. The monitor's telling me I've done about 15 acres. We don't have a whole lot going on with this field. So in the meantime, watch this drone footage that I took the other evening. I thought it was pretty epic. This was in the previous field that we were on. And then we'll come back when it's time to move, and I'll show you how we take off the header and move the combine down the road. All right, here we are on the edge. You can see the Snake River over here. We actually get our water not from the Snake River here, but up on the next dam upstream. This is all kind of part of a dam that feeds Twin Falls and the areas that are further west of where we are. Gonna load on the grain cart. I guess I haven't really talked about the grain cart, but the grain cart is used because I'm only going 2 miles an hour and he can see a lot better and follow me a lot better. We use the grain cart so the combine doesn't have to stop on the edge of the field, and then the trucks are down there on that end and I don't have to be. All done. Let's go down the edge. So the maneuverability of this header being 35 feet wide, we only moved to a field that is, what are we, a quarter mile, maybe a half mile away from the other field, and we had to take the header off. And I will show you what it's like to take it off, put it back on when we move to the next field. But, oh man, let's look at this first. Look at those. Hold on there. Look at that. Now you can see the river. You can see houses out there on the island in the middle of the river. I don't know if you can quite see from this angle, but there's the river on both sides of the island. And then if we zoom in over there, that yellow spot out there, that's the field we just got done with. So shout out to my wife for doing all the editing, and also shout out to her for the jealousy or the dreaming that she has right now. She's editing this, dreaming of a house overlooking the river here. Hold on there. Let's put a different lens on here. There we go. Hopefully that's better. All right, we're gonna keep working on this field. This field's, the monitor's saying 120 bushel. Of course, we're kind of on an edge, but yeah, the field's not doing great. The last field we were on, we probably averaged about 130, 140 bushel, which was pretty good. That's about average. This one's gonna be just slightly below average. It's not looking quite as hot. That's good, right? Because it means we can go faster through the field. So we're gonna keep on trucking here and hopefully get done soon, and then we can move once more. Looks like we got a little bit of a thistle problem here on the edges of the fields. I swear this year we've had more thistle than I've ever seen before. It has been thick this year for whatever reason. I don't know if the drought has promoted that. One thing that's always blown my mind is how well weeds can grow in drought conditions. If we could just get those genetics tied into our regular crops, we could grow high yielding crops in the Sahara Desert. Almost done opening up here, and then we'll just go around in circles once again. Alright, we'll unload the last little bit here while Miguel's also unloading into the truck. Tank all cleaned out before we head down the road. Okay, let's get the header all set up. I like to pull the reel back so that when we're going down the road, it's not in the way, but I also like to lift it up because I want to blow all the chaff off when we're going down the road at 50 miles an hour. So we're gonna go outside and start unhooking. So it's pretty simple to unhook the header. We've got a quick connect hydraulic and electronics right here. We just unscrew that. It's got all of our hydraulics that control the reel height, forward and back, up and down, all that. And then it also has all the electronics that are for the auto height sensors and the lights. Probably a speed sensor. I'm not for sure what else it has. We'll unhook the PTO, pull this pin right there, and that's ready to put on the trailer. So the trailer isn't terrible, but it can be a little bit tricky to get perfectly straight. So, let's see if I can do this. First time. I think we did it. Yeah, maybe not. Yep, I need to go to the left just a little bit more. If I don't get perfectly square, there's a couple tie-down straps that need to be hooked onto this header, and they don't work. And also there's little slots for the frame to sit on this trailer. Missed it again. I moved over a little bit, but not enough. Okay. I keep landing right in the same spot every time. What the heck? Alright, there. Let's see if that's... Yep, oh yeah. That's definitely going to get us a lot closer. We set the header down all the way. It pulls away from the feeder house. And now we are almost ready to go. So one thing I need to do is go outside of the combine and clean off my mirrors so that I can see going down the road, because we're going to go down a state highway and it is almost 5 o'clock, so it's going to be busy. I'm going to need visibility. Okay, windows are clean, hazard lights are on, beacons are on just for good measure. Let's go down the highway and hope we don't get in a wreck. Miguel's already left with the header trailer. We got to go down about 4 miles. We are going down the road at about 19.5 miles per hour, which is not terrible for a combine. It's really not terrible. The tractors do about 26. Most of the newer tractors will do about 26 at their fastest. Always got to be watching the mirrors because people will pass at the dumbest times. So we have a couple fields down this particular road, and we just went through a couple little dips on the highway. Those dips are really hard to pass around, so right here everything flattens out on the highway. And a lot of people like to pass because it flattens out, but that is also an intersection. And people don't know how to read, one of my pet peeves, they don't know how to read turn signals on a tractor, I guess. So we have all these flashing lights and we're driving a house-sized vehicle down the road, yet we have to have all these flashing lights on. And so part of the problem is my hazards are on, blinking, and when I turn on the turn signal, the way a turn signal on a tractor works is, say I'm turning left, the right side goes solid instead of flashing, and the left side keeps blinking. Well, that's not enough of a change for somebody to notice, and they will still try to pass because they're so worried about trying to get around me and not watching signals like they should. So I have a lot of people trying to pass me right in that intersection on the left as I'm trying to turn left. So I will jump out in the middle of the road to stop them from passing me, and I've had a lot of near misses on that particular intersection. Now, a lot of people say, well, why don't you just haul your equipment like construction guys have to? Which is a great idea, but the money and the time and the effort it would take to do that, not to mention that would add one more vehicle on the road when we are unloading and loading on into a field, that'd cause a disaster. We would have to have a transport semi or two to move our equipment. And then we would have to, because a lot of our fields are on the edge of the road and they don't have driveways into the field, they just have the field. That would cause 1 to 2 to 3 more semis, more time on the road, more hazards, more everything, and it just causes more issues. For most farms, they don't haul very far. Our farm is spread out from end to end, only about 8 or 9 miles. So we're really not that far of a commute to everything. People get annoyed. They get frustrated. They don't like waiting, but they love living in the country. In fact, a lot of people have moved here from the city because they love the country lifestyle. They want the slower lifestyle. They want a good place for their kids. Anyways, okay, this is our intersection coming up, and we got one more car coming down the road, and I know people are gonna try to pass. So I'm gonna do everything I can to distract them so that they don't pass me. Okay, there's a motorcycle coming. I'm gonna pull out in front of him. That way I don't have cars trying to pass me. All right, we did that safely. Let's go get hooked up to the header. I'll make sure we line up our quick attach plate. Wow, I'm struggling with lining up today. That's for dang sure. What the heck? There we go. Lift it up and off of the trailer. And back up so that we can lower the header and lock it in. Hook up all the attachments, and then we are going to cross the road for the next field. Once again, we got another small field. The next field is 21 acres, and for our fun and convenience, it's split into 2 different fields. Woo-hoo-hoo! This stuff is thick. So, wow. This is the field that we had the highest yield ever on the whole farm a couple years ago. And by the looks of it, we're hitting those high yields again. I don't know how well you can read that, but we're showing 200 bushels, 190, 214, 211, 203, 215. Wow. Wow. Oh man, this is gonna be another, man, I wish we were going across the scale so I knew exactly where we were, but this is gonna be another record-breaking field for the year. Because it's been like 190 plus, 180 plus consistently through the whole field. Granted, it's only 21 acres, but wow! Yeah, this will be nice. Okay, I've already almost got a full grain tank. Hopefully our grain cart's almost here. Oh, yep, he is. I can see him in the mirror. He just pulled in. All right, field number 3 done for the day. There goes Miguel with the header trailer. And in theory, hopefully, this is our last move of the day, and also last move to a field for the year. That field there is done, that field there is done. And according to the computer, we averaged 157 bushels per acre. But that doesn't count the overlap and the longer, or the skinny rows that we had to do, and there's a lot of point rows. So, ew, pretty good. Pretty good field. All right, that's a wrap for the day. We got quite a bit done. We got this next field opened up. If everything goes all right, we're gonna finish tomorrow. We're just letting the combine cool down a little bit, and then we're gonna shut it down. Thanks for watching. Come back next time. We're gonna have the last day of harvest filmed on here, and hopefully everything goes smooth. We have a deadline to hit. Anyways, like, subscribe, follow, all the things down to the bottom. Have a great night.